Hello, welcome to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 24 for October 7th, 2022. My name is Justin Young, and joining me as always are Alicia Utecht, Ryan Freels, and I guess not always. OJ was not here last week, but he is back. So OJ Duncan, welcome back.
Thank you. I had to go tell everyone about how much I beat up Ryan.
Well, I mean, if you're going to spend all that effort to beat up Ryan, you might as well brag about it to people.
Yeah, working on a book deal.
I think we got to cut them a break since it was their birthday this week.
Oh.
I still have teeth coming out.
Okay, when you first said that, I took it as you're so young, you have teeth that are
I'm 32. I'm not that young.
No, Justin, that's you, because it was also your birthday this week.
Well, look, I'm forever young.
Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Growing old's not, because I will forever be young.
I want to be forever young.
It is Ryan's birthday this week. Happy birthday, Ryan. What was it, the 5th? Was that
Yes.
your birthday? Oh, happy birthday. How's your week been? We'll start with you, Ryan. It's your birthday week.
It's been good. It's been busy, but it's been good. I will talk more about it a little bit later, because when we talk about gaming and stuff, because that's the main thing I've been doing in my free time lately. But aside from that, I've been listening to like music albums lately. I've listened to a couple albums by Nina Simone, since I've heard songs by her, but I hadn't heard full albums, and I really like her music right now. And I started listening to music by a drag queen named Maxi Glamour. I think I'm part way into an album by them, and it is like freaking amazing. Like, I'm like blown away by how much, like, it's awesome, just because I didn't necessarily expect them to make music I like. I anytime I hear like an artist that does one thing and they're like, oh, they're going to do this other thing, there's a part of me that's a little bit but their music is like just genuinely like really freaking good. So
It's like the Disney Channel star who's going to put out an album.
Yeah, and except they're actually good. But regarding Maxi Glamour, I will let OJ say more about that if they want.
OJ, how was your week?
So it was really, really good. So last weekend was Southern Illinois LGBTQ Fest, first annual one. And because there were a lot of fires I had to put out, not literal fires, but a lot of things I had to do.
It was a really good party.
You always have to clarify, not literal fires when you're in Carbondale.
It did end in OJ getting on stage and singing, "I didn't start the fire," completely with jazz hands.
Obviously.
He rewrote all the verses to be Carbondale related.
Yes.
Had a whole verse dedicated to the podcast.
Obviously, of course. It was 3 or 4 verses, honestly. You each got your own verse.
There we go.
I did knock Ryan's teeth out.
No, I was very clear that I did. But, so Southern Illinois LGBTQ Fest went really, really, really well. We had the ballroom extravaganza here on campus. It was amazing. If you missed it, you really missed out. Be on the lookout for it when it comes next year, because it was fantastic. And the fest itself on Saturday was fabulous. Ryan mentioned Maxi Glamour. Maxi Glamour was the headliner. There is someone who I really respect. They were on the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 3, and they just did a fantastic job when they were up there on stage. It was fabulous. I cried a little bit meeting them just because I was very excited, but... So the whole fest was a huge success, and then we had an LGBTQ affirming service on Sunday that was also a huge success. So it was just all over a really, really fantastic weekend. And this is my week where I don't have any really obligations. So I've been sitting around being like, I need something to do, but I don't have anything to do. I'm bored, and I haven't been bored in a long time. So I'm very excited about that. So I would say my week has been a 10 out of 10, riding the high on this amazing fest that is finally done with and I don't ever have to deal with again, which it was lovely, but I'm done being an event planner. So, but otherwise, my week has been fantastic.
I just also want to add that they looked like an Afrofuturist deity, and I felt like I was supposed to pray to them. And they did like start off like one of their songs was, "So is anyone here neurodivergent?" And that was so awesome.
Yeah. Maxi Glamour is known as the demon queen of polka and baklava.
That's quite the title.
Yeah,
Baklava is delicious too.
Yeah.
So.
But it's maxiglamour.com. We're just going to keep pushing Maxi because Maxi is amazing.
Is Maxi Glamour also a Weird Al fan?
I'm sure they probably are, yeah.
That would be, I would not be shocked.
Anyone on this earth who's not a Weird Al fan is lying. I'm just saying.
I was just wondering because of the polka.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
If Pat Boone said that they weren't a Weird Al fan, I'd be like, that sounds about right.
Alicia, how's your week been?
It's been a week. I am very grateful to have some fun things happening today to kind of lift my spirits because it's been a little tough with some stuff going on back home. But, I'm hanging in there. I'm here.
Yeah. Well, that's the way some weeks go, unfortunately, right? Like, you just have to get through them.
Yeah.
And
just keep on keeping on.
But we're glad you're here because we're going to talk some Pokemon, and really none of the rest of us are as qualified as you to talk Pokemon.
Okay, for the record, we get our sheet about everything we're going to talk about, and Justin forgot to put the Scarlet and Violet trailer on here. This podcast would be completely Pokemon-less without me.
It should be noted that the rundown was actually printed about 2 minutes before we came in here to record. So that's the reason why. Normally this is done the day before and we actually have a chance to look at it and make any corrections.
This is just a taste of the backstage fights that we have.
Yeah. This is Alicia going like full like cat on me. Good. Well, I mean, good. We're glad you're here and everything, and glad you're having a good day today, at least as much as you can.
Justin, how was your birthday week?
How was it?
It was your birthday week too.
Justin, how are you?
But let's really talk about how you're doing, Justin.
My birthday week has been really hectic. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of different projects going on that have basically meant that I've had zero free time this week. I had just enough time yesterday to watch the new episode of She-Hulk, and I'm really glad I did because that's that episode really really just went for it at kind of going after the sort of toxic fan community, and I thought that was a very kind of clever twist by the end of that episode that they did. And I don't want to do any spoilers, so that's why I'm being extremely vague, since it just came out yesterday and people might still be watching it. But I did have a chance to do some stuff with family and friends to actually celebrate my birthday. So it's been a good week. It's just been very stressful, very tiring, and OJ has had a week off. I need a week off. I think that's going to be my weekend, just doing absolutely nothing. And very much enjoying doing absolutely nothing.
Oh, by the way, this weekend I need you to...
I'm moving, Justin.
You need me to play the drums for you? I can't play the drums, right?
You got to play the drums for backing up OJ's I Didn't Start the Fire.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I can. I'm sure that We Didn't Start the Fire has got to be on Rock Band by now, right? So I guess
It must be.
I could play the drums on Rock Band for
And
it.
then we need you to do it for our Rush tribute band.
For Tom Sawyer.
So I heard y'all talking about Rock Band last week, and I wanted to say I'm very upset because I don't have my instruments anymore, but I very, 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 very much loved the game, and I wish that they would make new instruments. Like, honestly, they need to make a new Rock Band with new instruments.
There was a time, around 2012 to 2015, somewhere around in that period, where you could walk into any Goodwill in the country and there would just be stacks of Rock Band instruments where people were trying to get rid of them. And now everybody's desperate to get them back.
Yeah.
And it seems like there would be a market there, but maybe the cost is just prohibitive to actually make those anymore.
That's fair. I would pay a lot, I think, for it, because I had Rock Band and Band Hero both. Although they were both on the Xbox, and I haven't had the last two generations of Xbox, so I suppose even if I still had the ones that I had, I wouldn't be able to use them. But yeah, I really miss. I really love playing the drums.
Yeah, those are fantastic party games, fantastic games to get around with a group of people and just be kind of goofy with them.
True story.
All right, well, let's move on to what you've been playing. And Alicia, we'll start with you. What have you been playing this week?
I'm really going to shock everyone with this. It's really just a complete surprise.
Wait. Is it God of War?
Oh, totally. That's absolutely what I was playing. No, I've had a pretty chaotic week, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to game, but, I've been playing a little more of new Pokemon Snap, been playing a little more of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, just trying to 100% it. I finally beat the Ultimate Cup Z, which is like the final Coliseum boss rush. So story mode is 100% complete. Now I just need to, finish rescuing all the Waddle Dees and get all the pieces of Leongar's soul. And I think I've even gotten all the figurines now that I can without having filled those requirements. But
Right.
just plugging along, trying to get that 100%.
That sounds like if you're having a bad week, that sounds like the sort of games you should be playing. Playing Kirby, playing Pokemon Snap, very sort of relaxing games, very, for the most part, non-violent video games. Kirby is as non-violent, violent as you can get, it feels.
True.
You're basically, a giant marshmallow. So, like, even when you get hurt, you're like, oh, he's cute, even when he gets hurt. So those sound like, I think we've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I do think Nintendo gets a lot of grief often for making those sorts of family-friendly, appropriate for all ages games. And there are people who are like, I want my die-hard, serious video games. And then when you're having a bad time, those Nintendo games are just fantastic comfort food.
Yeah.
They're just really calming. They're really happy to go play. Like, you can't really play them usually without having a smile on your face while doing so. And I think Nintendo, we've all gotten so used to that out of them that in some ways we just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And don't really appreciate it.
Well, I think especially with like new Pokemon Snap, okay, you're doing the same routes. Maybe if you speed up, or if you can throw Fluffruit at different Pokemon or try running different scans or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's very repetitive, which in and of itself is very calming. It's not even like when you play Animal Crossing, you're still interacting with the villagers, you're still doing different things every day in the game, versus new Pokemon Snap is very much the same thing over and over, which when you're not in the mood for it can get kind of boring, but when you're having a rough time, it's like coming back and watching a comfort movie. You know exactly what's going to happen, you know all the plot beats, and you just don't have to be stressed about it.
Well, speaking of going back to comfort games that are slightly repetitive, Ryan, you've been playing Tetris the past few weeks.
Yes.
Which is exactly that sort of game. What have you been playing this week?
Tetris. Well, another game. I'll get to that one in a second. But I did get to like 120,000 points on Tetris, so that's nice. But that's what I was listening to Nina Simone to during. I was playing Tetris and listening to Nina Simone music, and nice experience. I recommend it highly. As
Nina intended.
Exactly. That really, she was waiting for that game to happen when she was singing. It's like, it won't be a complete experience without it. Right. But aside from that, I went a little bit out of my comfort zone. I actually got this game around a year ago and quit just because I was doing really badly at it, but I'm doing better at it now. Metroid Dread. I thought that would be it. So talking about the gamer's game from Nintendo, there you go. I actually do really enjoy this game. I'm just not that great at it. So like, I think I said that I wanted to get into like Metroidvania games before, but I just had a hard time. This is one I actually was enjoying a lot, and I think I got a little bored with Hollow Knight, to be honest. But this, I think I'm going to stay interested during. I think it, like with the cutscenes and stuff, like it uses cutscenes well in a way to keep like the story moving and like the tension building up. So basically in this game, to anyone that's not familiar with it, like, there is a planet that Samus has received pictures from showing some, I can't remember what it's called. It wasn't the Metroids, it was something else, but some creature that could imitate, like, shapeshift or imitate other bodies or take them over or something. And Samus thought it was dead and gone, like it was extinct. But so they sent some, like, robots, like some really powerful robots over to, like, survey the area, and it's taken control of them. So Samus has to go down there and see what's going on, and there's some ancient race of people on this planet, I think. I'm not super well, like, I'm not super well established, like, in terms of Metroid lore, so I'm butchering this, I'm sure. But it talk about, like, I knew Metroid had already taken, like, influence from, like, Alien and stuff, but it's really cool to see how they show that in this, and to see, like, the influences of Alien and how, like, the robots will move around and sometimes and how the creatures look, but also like the dark noirish German expressionist kind of look of this, like, dark space industry place. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks like you're in some, like, mechanized industry on some sort of planet, and it looks so cool. The lighting is really neat. Something I like is their parts, like, they've made it to look like there's film grain at times, like, if you're paying close attention, and that's just a cool effect to me. So, like, going back to the cinematic nature of its original influences. And you also, like, there's times where it'll cut close to, like, the eye of the robots or whatever. And if you pay attention to how they're looking at you, it kind of makes me think of HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, like, the sci-fi influences, you know, just getting deeper in there. And it's just, I love that, you know, I'm a sci-fi film nerd. I love the sci-fi movies it's referencing. I love that it even, like, in terms of cinematography, like, the game visually imitates, like, the German expressionist and noir roots. I don't know that the creators were thinking of it, like, oh, we're thinking this is, like, the German expressionism that influenced it, but it's cool being able to see that history through how it looks. And that said, it is a Metroidvania that it's a side-scrolling Metroidvania where you're exploring different environments, and as you collect and regain, like, abilities, you're able to access new parts of them, and overall, as you're going through the process of this, you're finding new connections between, like, the different rooms and stuff that you're side-scrolling through. Again, I brought up the cutscenes, and anytime there's a particular threat, like the machines or something, that are after you that have been taken over, it will do cutscenes to show them sometimes being awakened, and then it'll have, like, the music, you know, heighten and become more tense as they're approaching you and stuff. And it's really implementing those cutscenes well into the game design, not just as, like, storytelling that's, like, happening, like, for a moment and then you get back to the game. It feels very much a part of it and helping build up the tension of the game. And I'm currently at a monster this is the monster I got stuck on, and I'm kind of stuck on at the moment, but I've gotten way farther than I did when I previously fought it, so I think I'll be able to beat it this time. But, yeah, I know what I said about Metroidvania before. I'm eating my shoe on that. I really love Metroid Dread so far.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite games of last year. That's a fantastic game, and it's a much needed sort of, you know, return to form for the Metroid franchise.
Right.
Not that Metroid has really had bad entries, but it's a franchise that Nintendo often just sort of ignores. Like, you know, you'll go 5 or 6 years and there's no Metroid game, and then all of a sudden, like, all right, we're going to put out 2 Metroid games in the next year, and you're like, what are you doing, Nintendo? Like, and I know part of the problem is apparently that those games do not sell well in Japan at all.
Man,
like,
dang it.
The reason that Metroid exists at all, even still, is because they actually do sell really well in the U.S. But like, yeah, that's a fantastic game, and it's a game that kind of returns Samus after, you know, some of the games had, I think, tried to soften Samus a bit. This game kind of returns Samus to being a total badass and everything.
Oh, yeah. And I like how Samus can feel really tough and a badass, but there's, like, other times where you have to, like, be smart and just maneuver very well around, like, because the idea is that, like, as they crashed, Samus lost a bunch of their abilities and trying to regain them, and then so you feel badass for various reasons. You feel badass because you're killing a bunch of monsters, but then you have those moments where you're just like having to outsmart them, and it's a game that makes you feel really smart when you're figuring it out and figuring out how to maneuver in it. And something else I just want to add is the monster design, just really nice in this game, and Samus' armor is awesome, and it's just. I visually love this game.
I feel like Nintendo's best games always make you feel smart playing them.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky thing to do, but like the best Zeldas, you feel really smart playing those games. Like as you figure out the puzzles, as you figure out like, oh, I have to go through this room and then drop down into this other room instead of using the stairs, and you just get to that moment where you feel like, man, I'm smart. I figured this game out that is designed for like 6-year-olds to also be able to play. But I feel really smart, and I think Nintendo does that really well. That that sense of reward, endorphin kick that you get. It's not from killing something necessarily. It's from figuring a puzzle out.
Right.
And you know that once you start getting everything, you essentially just turn into like a God mode Samus. So you know that that's coming. Really, well, I don't know about in Dread. I haven't played Dread, but in most of the other games too, once you get to like that top level, it's like nothing can hurt you, and then like getting back to that is amazing.
Yeah,
there's a really great build up to a fantastic payoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I did have one more game I played, but I'll wait till we're done. I don't know if anybody wants to say more about Metroid because it's a good game and it's worth hearing more about.
No, go ahead.
I played a little bit more of Moonlighter, and I think I've reached the end of this for myself. Like I've gotten stronger. I can take out a big monster now, but I don't really want to. Like I feel like it's like I see where this game is going. It's going to get a little bit bigger and stuff. I'm going to be able to explore slightly different dungeons, and I'm going to be able to make the city feel a little bit bigger. But it just. I feel like I see where it's going, and it's not going in a direction that's interesting enough for me to like want to continue. Like, I'm not upset that I got it. I got my $5 worth out of the game. I feel like I want to play other things now. I might try to go back to it later, but yeah, I think I'd just rather play if I'm going to play a game like this, I'd rather play like a classic SNES Zelda game or something.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that's the right way to look at it. $5, and you get your money's worth. What does $5 mean to you? And I know it means something different to everyone, but I'm still of the mindset it's $5 to rent a game from like when I was a kid. You'd go rent a video game. So if I can get like a night's worth of value out of playing a game, it's worth $5 to me.
Same.
And so yeah, I mean, you've had a few weeks with it and enjoyed it. For the most part, it seems like. But, sometimes games just kind of trail out like that for you. So,
yeah.
All right. Cool. OJ, you've been gone for a couple of weeks. So what have you been playing?
So I've been trying to pick up a lot of games that I was playing and then just like drifted off from playing.
Chaos.
Yeah. Except for that one, I still it's going to take a little bit more energy for me to go back to it because there's the next DLC came out and I still haven't played it. But I was playing a little bit of Blasphemous again, going back, and then like the difficulty level on that ramped up pretty high, and so it took me a while to try and get back to it. But again, it's a fantastic, dark, horrible game. And then I played a little bit more Bayonetta. But again, it's still I'm trying to play with the screen where you touch the screen and move around and stuff like that, but I still can't get used to it. But it's kind of nice that they updated it for the Switch to make it kind of like a phone game where like you're pressing and moving around and stuff on the screen. So it's really nice, and I'm gonna try that a little bit more as we're moving forward. And mostly I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go because I quit smoking right at the beginning of the pandemic. Like that we had spring break here on campus, and that's when essentially everything started closing down, right? That spring break is when I said, I'm not going to have any more nicotine. This is when I'm stopping. So it was that timing was really weird. But with that, including the like much lowered activity, I gained about 80 pounds. So through the pandemic, like the 2 years when everything was closed down. And so I'm really, really working on trying to up my physical activity. So I have Ring Fit on the Switch, which is pretty amazing. I don't think it really is necessarily as much as like Wii Fit did a long time, but Ring Fit Adventure it's a really nice game that I went back to playing. And then also Pokemon Go is getting me out and walking again, because that first summer when Pokemon Go, like we're always trying to reach that high again, right? Where everybody was out having a good time.
For real.
Yeah, it was so amazing. But then Pokemon Go kind of got a little stale after a little bit, and I stopped playing because it was like, okay, I'm walking around and catching all the same Pokemon all the time. That's it. But they've really increased the amount of events that are happening, the amount of research that's happening, the amount of like quests that's happening. So I still feel like I'm constantly doing stuff. I'm constantly catching new Pokemon. I'm constantly having to do this. You have to, like right now there's like 7 different researches where you have to evolve different Pokemon. And then it's going to be leading up to like a community day and a raid day and all of this. So there's always stuff happening. There's a daily incense that you can use, which allows you to maybe catch. It's the only way you can catch the Galarian birds right now. And they're very, 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 very rare. But I saw one, and now I'm like, oh, I need to do this 15-minute incense every day. I need to be walking as fast as I can and doing it because there's such a low catch rate, and it's just going to be really difficult. But you can get other stuff that doesn't necessarily spawn. So like Corsola has never spawned in the United States. But there's a chance to get it with that incense. So it's really, really pushing you to walk and just keep moving throughout that. And then I just keep on increasing. I'm like, well, if I'm out here doing this 15 minutes, then I can do, half an hour. I can do an hour. And me and my partners are all just going out and doing the walks and stuff. So it's really nice to be moving again and start actually, like, I've been losing a lot of weight. The 80 that I gained in the pandemic is starting to actually melt off now that I've been doing this. So Pokemon Go has been really, really, really fantastic.
Wow, congratulations on the weight loss. And also, like, that's just a really cool way to lose weight, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
To play a game and actually lose weight by doing it. That, I know we've talked about Pokemon Go on here before, but, like, the cultural phenomenon that was that first year where everyone was really into it, and you just saw, like, on college campuses, I feel like particularly, like people were just, at it would be like after dinner, and you would just see masses of people just roaming around campus.
You could just walk up to anyone and know that they were playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something kind of nice about that, having that cultural, like even going beyond video games, of just having that cultural, like, zeitgeist. That everyone is doing something, everyone's joining in something, everyone's sharing something collectively.
And it's something positive.
Yeah. And, it's not, oh, my God, what's on the headline on the news tonight? It is something, that's getting people out and getting them active, and they're doing it with their friends. Like, there's something really nice about that. And I just wonder, I mean, obviously that's a hard code to crack because lots of other companies have tried to copy that unsuccessfully.
Yeah, that Harry Potter one was really, really bad.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter one was a hot mess. Even Niantic hasn't been able to recreate it because they have the Pikmin Bloom.
Right.
And, like, who knows about Pikmin Bloom?
Yeah. And, like, so I remember that, like, that first summer when it started, like, I still have Facebook messages. It was like, hey, I'm going to the city hall, and, like, putting a lure, because we had 3 stops right there, and you could put lures on all of them. And we would get, like, in a really small town that I lived in, we would get, like, a big, gigantic group there doing this. And here on SIU, I made a lot of friends that I'm still friends with through Pokemon Go. And, like, so we made a Facebook chat, like a group chat, for all the people that were doing raids. And it kept on filling up, and then we'd have to make a new one because some people kind of, like, fell off but didn't leave the chat. And then eventually we like made a Discord, and there's thousands of people here locally. And on the community days, we would all have this big path where we would go through, like, the quad, and then we would go around to, like to Lawson, and we would do this, like, specific trek going around on these community days. And it was, like, amazing. We had raffles and groups and stuff. There's a Pokemon Go RSO here on campus. It's just really fantastic. And there's still a good group of people that do it, but, like, I want to see these big groups again. Like, if there was something, like, super amazing that they brought back that we could do that with.
soon reality will imitate fiction, and our whole economy will be based on Pokemon Go and catching Pokemon, and going to like charging stations to like recharge our Pokemon after we catch them, and
So and there's something in Pokemon Go where you can link up with friends and have your Pokemon play with each other, which is awesome. And I saw a show that was talking about like the future of AR. And how like it's easier and easier to actually map the full entire area, and then people can map an entire outside, and then multiple people can be walking around and doing games and playing stuff with all the same like virtual like monsters or creations or whatever, all in the same place, rather than it just being single on everybody's phone. So I'm really looking forward to the technology really increasing with that.
Yeah, that seems like something Apple is supposedly or very non-secretly at this point working on an AR headset of some kind. And the rumors are that it will come out next year, but you never know. It's Apple. But Apple, you know, it's always one of those things where like, yeah, sometimes Apple puts out something and it's crazy expensive, like their HomePod speaker, and that thing just does not catch on. But when Apple does, something they make does catch on. Like even like the Apple Watch, like when they first announced that, nobody thought that thing was going to be that successful. And then a few years later, most people I see are wearing some smartwatch. Even if it's not an Apple Watch, they're wearing a smartwatch of some kind. You know, it used to be I had students in an entire classroom and nobody was wearing a watch. And now all of a sudden you see students and they're all wearing watches again. So like, you know, Apple deserves some credit for like maybe saving the watch industry. But
I see some like old-fashioned watchmaker just shaking their fists, like listening to our podcast, like didn't save me.
it's Geppetto.
As played by Tom Hanks.
Yeah. But I see Apple as the type of company that can make that go mainstream. So like what you're talking about of everyone being able to walk around and see the same thing. And if they're wearing these Apple goggles or whatever they're going to be called, you know, everybody's sharing in this same virtual environment that's projected onto the real environment and they're all seeing each other's. That seems like technology that Apple can do or Google. But obviously Google with their Google glasses like gave up and ran screaming away for a while. And, you know, like we'll see how that works out and everything. But yeah, that kind of future is much like with virtual reality. It's very exciting of what could be with that.
Let our new glasses become the apple of your eye. But seriously, I might have to go ahead and like start trying out Pokemon Go. I actually never got into it, so I might try it.
Do it.
Yeah. And Alicia needs to start playing again, too.
I do.
Saw that side eye.
Both of you, download it right now.
I still have it downloaded. I just haven't played it forever.
Okay.
It's one of those apps that has slowly moved off like to your second screen, to your third screen. It slowly slides.
See, I just can't deal with that much clutter, so it's still on my first screen. But
all
right. Anything else, OJ?
No, that's it. I played a few analog board games this week, but that's another podcast.
All right. Let's see. This week I didn't play a whole lot. Like I said, I've been kind of really, really busy with a lot of different projects. So the one thing I did go back and play a little bit more of, because it's sort of designed for you to be able to check in and not spend a whole lot of time, is Disney Dreamlight Valley, not Madame Tussauds Uncanny Dreamlight Valley. That's a very different game. But I did go back and I played a little bit more of this. I think kind of like you were saying, Ryan, with Moonlighter, this is a game that I may have played enough for me. I wish I was more into it. I wish I cared more. It's sort of like the Animal Crossing games, where I just have to take a break between those games, and it has to be a long break. Like I feel like I have to skip a generation or two with Animal Crossing games, because once you've played a whole lot of it and the new one comes out, it's not significantly different enough to like grab me and addict me. And I feel like this is the same way. And I feel like because I've played Animal Crossing more recently, switching over to this, I'm like, yeah, this is a lot of that. It's a lot of the same stuff. It's not bad. And I think it will probably be very much a hit with children and very much a hit with the big Disney fans, our Disney adults. But I just don't think it's enough different to like keep me coming back to it. And so I've done it this week, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games I quickly forget about, much like Alicia with her Pokemon Go. So
I guess she's just not really that big a fan of Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal that I left it out of the rundown, so we'll just skip
Flash
it.
in the Pan game series.
She's not a real fan.
Oh gosh.
Speaking of news, there is one story that we have to talk about. And that one story, as you all know, is the new Pokemon trailer. No, we're not talking about that first.
We have to save that for like a lift after this first one.
So yesterday was the big premiere of the first trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Not Super Mario Brothers the movie. This is different. So we got our first trailer. We got our first peek at the voice actors, and first chance to hear them. And, you know, we got to hear Jack Black. Jack Black is a pretty good Bowser.
Jack Black is just a fantastic human being overall. And I was a little like, when I saw that he was going to be Bowser, I was like, how is his voice acting? Because, you know, he's done animated films before, but Kung Fu Panda, Po is basically Jack Black.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know if I want Bowser to be the voice of Jack Black. But he actually does a pretty good Bowser voice.
There's effort. Like, he doesn't just do his regular voice. Like, and his voice just gone more... it's just a more gravelly version of his voice, I guess you could say. But his voice just more gravelly is actually really fitting for Bowser. I was surprised.
Yeah, and like I'm the opposite end. I don't like Jack Black at all, but I think he did a really good job as Bowser. Like, from what I've heard, I really liked him as Bowser.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of where I really like Jack Black if it's the right project.
Yeah.
And I can not stand Jack Black in some movies, but if it's the right project, he's fantastic. So something like, you know, School of Rock,
Yes.
or something like High Fidelity, like he's fantastic
Jumanji
in
movies.
those. Yeah, like
They happened, I guess.
Jack Black acts as a teenage girl better than any teenage girl I've ever seen.
I don't know if I want to watch that.
that's such a weird statement. I don't know how to interpret that. But yeah, so like I feel like a little bit of Jack Black can go a really long way, and at least what we saw in this trailer, I feel like it's a little bit of Jack Black, and it is going a long way. And he does do a good voice. Like, so thumbs up. If there were concerns about Jack Black in this movie, I feel like those concerns are, at least for now, mostly alleviated for most audiences. Then, of course, we got to hear Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
That was...
It sounded like Toad.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
fine.
There's
It
Toad.
It wasn't phenomenal. It was fine.
Yeah, I'm not going to have to do any work to be like, oh, is that Toad or not Toad? That
Yeah.
It's definitely Toad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Toad voice. It's not his normal voice, because, like, who would do that?
Right.
Right?
Who on earth?
He definitely didn't do his normal voice, and, you know, that would sound weird, I feel like, for Toad, because we all know Toad is supposed to be kind of high-pitched and squeaky, and, like, that's what we got from him, and it sounds pretty good. So kudos to, you know, an actor I normally enjoy quite a bit. And then
We got Luigi.
Charlie Day.
Well, yeah, we got to see Luigi. We got to hear Charlie Day go, ah, and that was
good
about
ah.
it.
Fine, No
Yeah,
complaints about the daw.
Right? No full lines, no full words.
I don't think we heard anyone else, so let's just move on.
Yeah, I mean, and then we can just, you know, move on from the trailer and say, we're looking forward to this film. Oh, I'm sorry. We did overlook one person here on the cast rundown. Chris Pratt as Mario.
I totally didn't even know that he was in this film. I watched this trailer and didn't hear him at all.
Hey, I'm Mario.
Want to fight about it?
Yeah.
God.
I feel like that would have been better. Like had they just like leaned into the Brooklyn side more and been like, let's just really lean into this stereotype. Like, I feel like the cartoon from the early 90s did.
Yeah.
Like just really kind of leaned into that and, we're going to do the heavy Brooklyn accent and everything.
Y'all didn't appreciate Bob Hoskins, and now we get this. I'm just saying.
So if you have not heard this, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't heard this, that's bizarre. You should go listen to it right now. Pause this podcast, go listen to it.
And then come back, please.
Yes.
And commiserate with us.
This is... So I feel like this is exactly what we worried it would be. It's not a train wreck. It's not Chris Pratt trying to do voice acting and doing it badly.
Which would be more entertaining if we're being honest.
This is Chris Pratt doing Chris Pratt. And I feel like we talked about this 2 weeks ago or so on the podcast, and we said, I said, Chris Pratt just has generic guy voice. And that makes Chris Pratt really good in playing Star-Lord. And it makes Chris Pratt really good at playing Andy on Parks and Recreation because he gets to be generic dude.
It even worked for Lego Movie because the whole point was that he was generic dude.
Right. It works in that. It does not work in Jurassic World where he's supposed to be like kind of smart guy and he just never comes off as a smart guy in those films.
Chris Pratt's name should just be generic dude.
Yeah.
And this, he's doing generic Chris Pratt dude voice for Mario.
An icon in the video game industry is Chris Pratt.
And it just feels like the most boring way they could have gone with this voice. Like, I would have enjoyed Keegan-Michael Key doing a Mario voice much more than this.
Actually, yeah, Nintendo, listen to us. Just go back and do Keegan-Michael Key as Mario.
Or just let Jack Black re-record it all.
So all of you listeners, the bullying worked with Sonic. So now we have this trailer. We can be polite with your bullying, but go bully them and tell them Chris Pratt has got to go.
I mean, look, a few years down the road, they'll do another Rescue Rangers film, and the Chris Pratt version of Mario can be in that, just like the original version of Sonic is also in that film.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can we just, not even accept this as a meme? Can we just say no?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I suppose it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
And more entertaining in the process.
I say,
Well,
could it have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be worse. I just think it's the most boring thing they could have done with this.
I would have rather seen, if it had to be Chris Pratt, I would have rather seen Chris Pratt trying to do, the obnoxious, it's a me, Mario.
Yeah, I mean, do the ethnic Italian stereotype. At least that's interesting.
Yeah. Instead of a very, very slight twinge of a New York accent that
I
probably
can't
wouldn't
even hear.
miss unless you were listening for it.
I did catch that. So I did catch there was a twinge of New Yorker, maybe sort of trying to sound Italian. There's a twinge of something, but it was so barely there.
Well, can we also talk about, the person who has voiced Mario forever in the games is around.
And
why did we not cast Charles Martinet?
I did, and I watched a clip of him too. And my one thing was I was thinking, well, maybe he would struggle with longer lines or something. No, I don't think that after rewatching a clip of him. He's very invested and very in love with his job as Mario. I think he could. I think he would carry that role perfectly fine. And if you are looking for somebody younger to do it, still get a good voice actor like Sung-Won Cho or someone, not because
But also follow Sonic's example.
Yeah.
They brought the game voice actors for Tails into the second movie.
Yeah. And I also feel like they know that Chris Pratt was doing a bad job because in the trailer it's mostly Bowser.
Yeah.
And then just a very few lines with Mario. And it's not like, oh, this big reveal, we didn't know Mario was going to be in it or something. It's the Mario Brothers movie, right? Or it's not Mario
Super
Brothers,
Mario
the
Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers. There we go. And so, like, we know it's Mario. It's right there in the title. It wasn't a big reveal. And so I think they know because they had so much with Jack Black doing Bowser really fantastically. And then, there's just a line or two.
Yeah, I mean, I just keep thinking this is the most boring way you could have gone. You could have hired any dude off the street.
Could have hired Tommy
do
Wiseau.
a voice.
Right.
And like that would have been the equivalent of what we're getting. Like Charles Martinet, like somebody actually took this trailer and they took lines from different Mario games and they re-edited this trailer with him doing essentially the lines. And you're like, it doesn't sound that bad. It's a cartoon movie. I mean, that was always the thing. People were like, well, this would wear on you throughout a full 90-minute movie. But like watching it, it's like, people are watching a full movie of the Minions.
Yeah.
God.
Like, people are spending 90 minutes watching the Minions. You don't think they'll spend 90 minutes listening to Charles Martinet? Like,
Baby boomers love the Minions. We've seen that all over the internet.
I mean, this is the same studio that made the
Yeah.
Minions. Like,
Hate those little bastards.
it just feels like, I don't know if they were scared not to cast a big movie star, and so like they went to this. But it
Which is
also
ridiculous because, like, if any video game franchise, like, I know we had the video game movie curse for so long, and Mario has shown previously bad movie. But in today's day and age, like, if any movies are gonna have a shot to do well at the box office, it's Pokemon and Mario when you're looking at Nintendo franchises.
Well, and how bizarre is it that Sonic did more clever casting with their film than the Mario film did,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean,
It's like you
from
didn't
Sonic
need to cast
to
a big
Knuckles,
name to draw people into this film.
No.
You could have cast someone who would do the voice well, whether they were known or a nobody.
Is anybody going to go see the Mario movie because Chris Pratt's name is attached to it?
Nope.
No.
In fact, people are going to specifically not go to see it because Chris Pratt is in it.
Yeah.
I just imagine. Also, it's just funny because, like, Anya Taylor-Joy, she can be an amazing actress, and she's doing the voice of Peach. I just imagine some scene where, like, Chris Pratt's going up to Peach, "Hey, Peach, it's me, Mario," and then she just starts sobbing, like, "I was in the Queen's Gambit, for God's sakes." From the Queen's Gambit to Princess Peach.
Well, we know crying is Peach's superpower.
Yeah. And so speaking of Peach, the Mario doesn't have a butt. And they specifically had to go and make that choice. Like, because he has a saggy back of his pants. Like, why are you changing the character like that too? I mean, it doesn't match Chris Pratt at all. If he's just gonna sounding like Chris Pratt, at least give him Chris Pratt's butt, right? But no, Mario has a saggy butt, and then Green Toad has like a huge badonkadonk. So, like, what are they doing here?
Everything in the world is upside down.
It is. It really
I mean,
is.
let's be honest, they're fetishizing Green Toad.
They are. They absolutely are. Go look at that poster if you haven't already. And
Take a closer look at that poster if you haven't already.
yeah, and there's a whole lot of like Easter eggs in there, and there's a bunch of secrets in that poster. And then look at Mario's butt and be like, what, is it going to get inflated in the movie or something? Is he going to take like two toadstools and put them in as like a fake butt?
He felt
Because
too
needs
threatened
it.
by Master Chief. So.
I guess.
A Chomp is going to grab his butt, bite it, and it's going to swell up, and he's going to go, "Mamma mia, Luigi, look at my rear end." And Luigi's going to go, "I don't know, Mario." Yeah, I mean, it's just...
Hashtag give Mario a butt.
And a good voice actor.
Yeah, I just can't believe they went this boring, and it just makes me think, like, right, we're going to get Chris Pratt as the voice of Garfield, and if this is the range that Chris Pratt has, right, and like Chris Pratt went and did an interview where he said my version of Mario will be unlike anything you've ever heard before.
Which technically isn't wrong, because we've never heard Mario sound like Chris Pratt before.
Right, but it's just like the most boring way to, like, Garfield has 2 legendary actors that are historically tied to that character. Lorenzo Music and Bill Murray, right? Like, and then you're going to put Chris Pratt into that company, and he's just not going to matter.
You'd be like, oh, Mondays.
And we're all going to sit there with that exact reaction. No one in the theater will laugh.
And I also want to address, like, they did this as part of a Nintendo Direct, and they brought in Chris Pratt as part of this. They have Miyamoto on there. Miyamoto's introducing him, and of course, Miyamoto is like the center of all that is wholesome and good in the gaming industry. And then they bring in Chris Pratt, and he's talking into a camera like he's doing a Zoom chat, and
Great
the
for a voice
entire
actor.
time he keeps looking off. Like he'll say, "Yeah, my entire life," and then he looks off and he goes, "I've been really into Nintendo games. I always wanted to." And then he
That's a
looks
proper
off
saying.
and says, "I've spent hours stomping on these Koopas." And you're looking at it going, "Is he reading cue cards? What is going on in this video?" And then what makes it even worse is it's followed up by a video of Jack Black, and Jack Black and all his, Jack Black is an animated character to begin with.
Yeah.
True story.
And he's like fantastic in it, right? He's like excited, and he makes you excited for the movie. And Chris Pratt seemed like he didn't care.
Chris Pratt was so dull.
Yeah.
And and especially like you said, I'm glad that he was before Jack Black, so we didn't go from Jack Black's energy to Chris Pratt's boringness. But he's just, and the way he had his camera, like half the time you couldn't even see part of his face, and he just was so not excited. And then Jack Black comes on, and he's like, "I've been preparing for this for years."
This is my life's work.
And so this is what this makes me think. And for the first time in my life, now I'm thinking Sega should have won the console wars.
Wow.
Because that's how bad this was.
I'm not upset with you for thinking that, just damn.
And I am a lifelong Nintendo fanboy. My entire life I've been a Nintendo fanboy, and now I'm like, well, maybe Sega should have won. Maybe I should have bought a Saturn.
Like going all Thanos, like perhaps I judged you too harshly.
I think we have to be fair that the trailer itself, I think, actually looks very charming. That the movie looks very charming, is very bright, is very colorful, like the Mushroom Kingdom with the toadstools everywhere and the like things, pipes up in the sky and everything. It looks lush. It looks exciting.
It looks like a very fun, cute movie.
Yeah, and like I don't
It
think
just sucks to have the main character be such a downer.
this is not going to be the Disney Renaissance, right? Like it's not that kind of a film, but it looks pretty good. And it just, yeah, you're right. It sucks to have the main character, an iconic character, a character as well known as Mickey Mouse around the world, and you're going to give the most boring actor, who I actually enjoy in the right role, but you're going to give him this role. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll luck out, and every time he goes to talk, someone will just interrupt him, so we only get like 2 lines from him in the whole movie. A silent Mario main character.
I'd be fine with this silent Mario. And here's one thing I do have, so I think the trailer looks really pretty. Here's a concern I have, though. I don't know if I want to hear these characters talk all that much. Because I kind of like that they don't talk that much in the video games, or I like that we're just doing things with them or watching them do things. I even think that kind of adds a storybook feeling to it. And it kind of makes me think of, it's not the exact same thing, but it kind of makes me think of thinking back to that old Tom and Jerry movie where what if Tom and Jerry just talked the whole time? Wouldn't that be great? And that's one of my, I'm not going to say it's a super strong concern necessarily, because I do actually enjoy Jack Black in that role as Bowser, and obviously you got to hear him talk to do that. But I
I have some good news for you.
What?
Jack Black is not going to be talking that much in the movie because he's going to be singing. So he did seem to confirm, he was at New York Comic Con, that he will be performing some musical numbers in this film.
What?
I thought you said good news, Justin.
That is amazing news.
So that has been the rumor for a while, that this film, there was a leaked script that got out, and the rumor was that this film is actually sort of a musical and that there will be multiple musical numbers throughout this film. Which...
Okay, but Jack Black can sing.
Right.
I am down for a Jack Black musical.
When you think of it from that perspective, casting Jack Black makes a whole lot of sense. Casting, again...
Chris Pratt actually can sing.
He can. He's okay.
He's not a phenomenal singer like Jack Black, though.
But, like, there are better singers who are probably also better actors.
You better heard a lot of things.
You could have cast in his place. So...
Oh my god!
All right, we could talk
Mario
about
the musical.
We could talk about this the entire podcast. Let's actually try to get through some of this other news,
Mamma mia.
because as Alicia said, we need some pick me up news. Alicia, take it away. There's a new Pokemon trailer. Why should any of us care?
Because we got 14 minutes of gameplay, and we got to see what the actual paths will be a little more. I'm still kind of iffy on some of how they're doing this very open world, but even
I think
if
that's the big
don't-
news, right? Like it is an open world game.
It's very open world, and they're setting it up. They're setting up an expectation that you won't necessarily have to do everything. So, like, for example, when you go back to Gen 3 and Gen 4, when you had contests, you still had to do the gym challenges in order to progress to the next cities to get to the next part of the game. The way they're setting it up here, my understanding is that you won't have to do the gym challenge, which I think is a really interesting direction. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm reserving judgment, but if nothing else, I respect that they're trying something new. Mm-hmm. Also, I just absolutely love that, so much lately with Legends Arceus, they started really giving some Gen 2 Pokemon some love with much-deserved evolutions. And finally, they have given Girafarig an evolution. Farigiraf is a gift to this earth. I will die on this hill.
Running up that hill.
If only they used that song in the game.
No, giraffes are my all-time favorite animal, so Girafarig has been a favorite of mine forever, and I absolutely love Farigiraf. It's all I need in life, honestly.
All right. Any other exciting things from this Pokemon trailer?
I mean, the new team looks pretty meh, but... so not really exciting things, but it's interesting to get a look at them anyways.
I looked at the trailer. Something I really liked, I thought was like a cool direction, was like, I like how they're like, Pokemon Snap is sort of kind of coming into it. Like, well, you have like the pictures that you can take and stuff, and like...
Yeah, you get to take pictures with your Pokemon. You get to clean your Pokemon.
And I also like that you actually like get to like pick up materials and learn how to make your own TMs. Like, that just seemed like a really neat little mechanic to add. Like, which I think I like it when you get to like pick up items to make your own like weapons and stuff, and that's what it kind of makes me think of, is getting to do that. So like I think I might actually have to get this Pokemon game. Not that I dislike Pokemon or anything, but I thought like I had my fill after playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and like I didn't need to play anymore. But after seeing some of the stuff that they're adding to this, I'm like, I think I gotta try this out.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Get my green grass kitty.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Moving along, the leads of Disco Elysium have claimed that they were forced out of the company. They were working on a sequel to Disco Elysium, and they have claimed that they were forced out of the company. The company was bought heavily invested in by a venture capital firm, and apparently they have forced out the leads who made the first game, so they will not be working on the second game.
That's almost never a good sign.
Yeah.
I feel like particularly with that game is so obviously a labor of love with the personality of the people who made it. You know, it's not, and I don't mean this derivative, but it's not just another Assassin's Creed game where it feels like you could bring in another team and they could make a game in that mold. I'm not sure you can swap people in and out to make another Disco Elysium. A slight correction. A story we talked about last week was Bruce Willis had sold away his digital rights. That story got reported everywhere. Mainstream media outlets were reporting that story. And then Bruce Willis's agent came out and said, "No, that's not true. We didn't do that." Apparently it was for one project and it was not forever. And there has been some mass confusion over this. So apparently that's not happening. But, you know, given the reaction and everything to it that we saw in the media, it seems like the sort of thing that will happen eventually. You know.
So as I was listening to the podcast from last week, and so y'all said deep cake, and then I had to stop because somebody came into my office, and in my brain I was thinking, is this like a deep fake of people's butts? Because they should really get the rights to Mario and give him a butt with a deep cake.
Give him Bruce Willis's butt.
Exactly. Like, take Bruce Willis's butt, put it on Mario. Everyone would be happy.
Bruce Willis's voice while we're at it.
Yeah, yeah.
be more
honestly,
interesting.
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had like 20 minutes where I was talking to somebody trying to figure out what deep cake was because I paused at just the right time. So
Fantastic.
Someone should get onto that. By the way, deep cake, you have the name. You should make deep fakes of people's butts.
Let's see. In other news, it's time for our Overwatch disaster of the week.
Oh my gosh.
And Activision is being accused of withholding raises from those people who were the union activists. So their labor board, this is actually the labor board coming out and saying this. So they're saying that, yeah, Activision actually did this. This isn't just an individual accusing them. That as, you know, sort of punishment, retaliation against those who were organizing for a union at Activision, Activision punished them by withholding raises.
Will Activision ever get their act together?
No.
No, they don't have the vision for it. In other Activision news, this is kind of dropping down here in the rundown, but so they launched Overwatch 2 this week.
Electric Boogaloo.
And technically that's a Blizzard game, but Activision Blizzard's all the same company at this point. And as launching this, they announced, okay, well, you have to sign up. Your account has to be linked to a phone for two-factor authentication, basically. But it can't be a prepaid phone. So it has to be a permanent phone number when you get this. And otherwise, you cannot play Overwatch 2. So this basically is going to prevent lots of people from playing Overwatch 2. And a lot of people immediately took to Twitter and were saying, hey, wait, like this is, like, whether you realized it or not, this is discriminatory against people who are poor.
Yeah.
People who are poor are on prepaid phone plans very, very often, and often have to change phone numbers on a fairly regular basis. And you are telling them that we do not want you playing our game. Activision, to their credit, Blizzard, I guess I should say, they did come out and announce that they are scrapping this for most players, particularly those who played Overwatch 1 already will not have to do this.
The fact that it's a most, though.
Yeah, it still doesn't sound like it's going a total fix.
Well, and honestly, like, wasn't there a bunch of garbage? Like, I saw people talking in a couple of my Discord groups, like, when they downloaded Overwatch 2 and tried to start it up, it kept crashing on them, and they were stuck in the waiting room with 40,000 people ahead of them.
Yeah.
And
That's a whole other
just all
issues.
kinds of garbage around this.
Sounds like that Blizzard game was leaving people out in the cold.
I'm going to beat you up after this for that.
He wants you to know that was the moment where he decided.
And so I've actually found that a lot of companies do stuff like this because I've been trying to set up stuff for a 501c3 that I started, and I don't need a phone number for it at all. There's not a single time where somebody's going to be calling me on a business phone. But a lot of things like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, etc., need a phone number. And so I tried to I signed up for a Google Voice number for the 501c3 so we would have it, but they won't accept it, and they won't accept prepaid either. So if you're trying to set up an account on something like one of the cash services, you have to have a regular phone number. Now, I had those accounts for my own personal phone number already, my own personal accounts, and some of them will accept we're just going to send a code to your phone, but you don't need it. But Venmo, I think specifically, does not allow you to use a prepaid phone number or a Google Voice. And there's a lot of other services that require it. And again, it's just socioeconomic oppression.
Yeah, I think, they're doing this for fraud prevention reasons. That's why I think companies institute these sorts of policies. They're not just doing it because they hate poor people.
I mean,
well,
He did say just.
but that's the outcome, right? That's the side effect.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you want to give the company total credit, right? They're doing this for the reasons that they're stating. The side effect is that it disproportionately affects a group of people for no good reason, really.
Right.
And certainly something beyond their capability of even changing in a lot of situations. Right. And so it's just a very bad situation. So hopefully Blizzard, that most situation, hopefully that gets worked out. It just may be a bumpy road for, the near future.
So nothing new for them.
And on that note, just screw you, Activision.
All right. They are making a new Garbage Pail Kids game. Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike and the Quest for Stale Gum is being marketed and pitched as a long-lost NES game that was in development. And there's a main reason I want to talk about this game. This game launched with maybe one of the best trailers I've ever seen for a video game. Certainly one of the best trailers I've seen in recent memory. It's fantastic, and it's not fantastic because the game itself looks amazing, though it does look pretty fun and cute and everything. It's amazing because essentially they made up a whole mythology behind this game. They made up this mythology that this game was originally in development for the NES, and then there were lawsuits and everything that prevented this game from getting released. And so they took the game and they went and they hid it away somewhere. They buried it, and maybe it was in a landfill in the desert, or maybe it was at the bottom of the ocean, or maybe it was in a cave. And they bring in real people in the gaming industry to talk about this mythology that they're creating surrounding this new game that they're making. And so, the story of taking a video game and burying it in the desert is a true story that was at one point an urban legend that people weren't sure if it was true, that they did this with the Atari 2600 ET game. And turns out it is true. They went into the desert, they dug it up, and they found there were copies. There's a documentary about that. One of the people who appears in that documentary talking about that game is Mike Micah. Mike Micah has been a game developer for, decades at this point, worked on Game Boy games and that sort of thing. Mike Micah is one of the developers of this game.
Oh, wow.
And he appears in the trailer for this game.
That's
talking
awesome.
about, will we be able to find this game? Well, nobody knows if we're going to find it buried out in a desert. And then the trailer goes off and it talks about, there were congressional hearings, and they show congressional hearings talking about video games. But they're the congressional hearings in the early 90s when they were talking about Night Trap and Mortal Kombat. And so they're using the actual footage of that. This actually happened. It just wasn't about a Garbage Pail Kids game. And it talks about the protests. There really were protests about Garbage Pail Kids, the cards, at the time that they came out. And it talks about lawsuits. There really were lawsuits that shut down Garbage Pail Kids, but it was from the Cabbage Patch doll makers who said they were infringing on their trademark and everything with the look of the characters. So they had to change all that. It's such a cool mythology building for this game.
I love that.
All right, I got to check this out.
And like the more that you kind of dig into it, the more cool the like trailer becomes, because they really were having fun with like, let's build this like Blair Witch style. We're going to tell you everybody that this is real, but like it's not at all real. We're just completely BSing this. And it's just a really fun way to market a game like this. It's really cool that they're making a Garbage Pail Kids game in the 8-bit style, and giving it a big push and everything as it comes out.
That's really cool. I've never seen anyone do this with a game before. Like, I'm hearing all this and it's reminding me a lot of like what Galaxy Quest did, the film.
Sure.
Where they built this whole mythos of like, oh yeah, and this show existed, and they made like a documentary about it that they filmed in 90s style, and you watch the behind the scenes, and all the actors and crew are all like, oh yeah, like this really like that's not Tim Allen, that's Jason,
right?
And it's so fun, and it, especially when they lean into it, I feel like it really creates. Not only it shows how much the team working on it loves what they're doing with this, but then it also inspires fans to really love what they're doing with it. And so this could be a really fun, like, video game community building moment. Like, even if, I have negative attachment to Garbage Pail Kids, but I'm invested now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun way of just showing the passion that the people who are working on this game really have for this game. To go out and make this, 3-minute long trailer that plays like a documentary, it's just fantastic. And, given the companies involved in this, I'm sure that will be included when you download the game. They'll probably have that trailer, or maybe in a more extended version of it. Good on them. So much game marketing is garbage. This is a time that's actually been good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I gotta check this out.
I'm very much invested in this. I'm very much invested in Garbage Pail Kids, and I'm very excited.
You are of the right age, like me, to be very invested into the Garbage Pail Kids.
I remember collecting all of them, and I just needed one to finish my entire collection. It was Decapitated Heidi. I remember very specifically, and I just could not find her, and I don't think I ever did. And I'm sure she costs like $20,000 now if you try to buy one. But
I remember I didn't collect them, but I remember getting my brothers as a kid and getting a kick out of them. So
yeah, they were fun at the time, and they felt, for a kid, they felt like that thing you weren't supposed to have or be watching, or So yeah. All right, we're running a little late on time, so let's go ahead and go to our big question of the week, and it ties in nicely what we were just talking about. Garbage Pail Kids is getting a game finally after 35 years. What 80s property would you want to see get a game today? And it could be something that maybe had got a game back in the 80s and you would like to see them get a new game, or maybe something that never actually got a game. And OJ, we'll start with you.
Okay, so we mentioned it earlier, actually. I would like for E.T. to get a game that does it justice.
They made one for the PlayStation 2 that was also terrible.
Okay, yeah. So a good one, I think. Also, there's two 80s things that I have a lot of trauma with that I would like to see a good video game to get rid of that trauma in my head. And
I think I know one of them.
Yeah. So those two are Teddy Ruxpin and My Buddy.
I thought you were going to talk about your trauma with the TMNT games again.
Oh no! Well, they've had some good games that have come out. So, but yeah, no. That NES Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game was horrible.
My buddy, wherever I go, he goes with me.
So I've had PTSD essentially through most of my life with this that I had to work through in therapy.
I mean, he was basically Chucky.
Yeah, so I don't know.
What is this game? I've never
So
heard
I don't know.
It's a doll.
Yeah, I don't. I can never remember if I told him. So if you've heard this story before, I apologize. So my brother, I grew up very poor. Both of my parents were disabled, and we never had a lot of money for stuff. But I really wanted a My Buddy. I was like, I said, for Christmas, I want a My Buddy. This is all I want. I don't care what happens. I won't eat if I get it, right? And so my father went out and got an extra job because like minimum wage and stuff was very low at this point. So you needed to get a job for something. It probably only cost like $60 or maybe not even that much, right? But he had to go out and get an extra job to buy me a My Buddy, right? Unfortunately, this was the year that Child's Play came out. And so my parents got me a My Buddy, and I loved it, did everything with it. And then my brother set me in a chair and tied me to a chair and made me watch Child's Play.
Oh, my word.
And so now I wouldn't go anywhere near My Buddy. And my parents got very, very, very angry at me because, like, my dad went out and got an extra job to buy this for me, right? And so my disabled parents went without stuff in order to buy this for me, and I wouldn't have anything to do with it. And my brother told me and Chucky was based off of My Buddy. They say, based off of multiple dolls. It was Chucky was My Buddy, right? And so my parents got really, 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 really angry about that because I wouldn't touch it. And one of the things my brother said is that if I told my parents, then he would come to life and kill me, right?
Oh my gosh.
So my brother is not a very nice person as I was growing up.
How old were you when this happened?
Probably 7 or 8, maybe.
Jesus.
Maybe I can't remember when Child's Play came out, but whatever year it came out,
Wow.
And then Teddy Ruxpin. Again, all I wanted was a Teddy Ruxpin, and I begged my parents, and my dad again for another year got an extra job to buy me a Teddy Ruxpin and buy me tapes and stuff, and it was really fantastic Christmas. So Teddy Ruxpin, if you're not familiar, was run by batteries, and there was Teddy Ruxpin cassette tapes that you would put in the back, and you would hit play, and then Teddy Ruxpin's face would move and his mouth would open, and he would talk as he's telling you stories, right, and like singing and stuff like that. So my brother, so Teddy Ruxpin was run by batteries, and then when the batteries were low, it would get slower and slower and slower, like that, right? So my brother recorded himself saying, I'm stuff like, I'm Satan, I'm going to kill you, go kill the pigs, etc. Because he was a big fan of Amityville Horror. Kill the pigs and stuff like that. And then took old batteries, put them in my Teddy Ruxpin with that tape. So when I went and hit play, it was like, OJ, this is Satan, kill the pigs.
This is like some creepypasta stuff.
Seriously.
Yeah. My brother is very creative. Unfortunately, most of that creativeness was torturing me.
I was going to say cruel, not creative.
Yeah. And 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other, honestly, in this case. But so we had this closet that I would sit in and play with Teddy Ruxpin, and then I wouldn't go near it again. And my parents were like, we are never buying you anything again. Like, we've gone through so much to buy you this Teddy Ruxpin and all the tapes that came with it. And then again said, if you tell them, I will kill you. So my brother always covered his bases, and so my parents didn't know this. Like, my dad actually never found out about it, but then I told my mom at one point, and my brother was pretty. It was pretty rough growing up, honestly, with that. So I would like a Teddy Ruxpin and a My Buddy, some type of franchise to like reverse that in my head, make them good again.
I want them to team up and like go terrorize. And it's like the Friday the 13th game. They're like stalking you throughout the game.
I'm like picturing Five Nights at Freddy's this entire time.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was talking about how not scary Child's Play movies were. I didn't have that context growing up. So
It's fine. That's fine.
OJ, I want you to know that's a horrible story. And I feel very much for you. I was also laughing hysterically throughout that entire story.
No, I know. I know. I can look at it back, 30 years later and like 35 years later and be like, oh yeah, this is funny. Ha ha ha. After all the therapy I did, and EMDR is fantastic because, but yeah, no.
It's just one of those stories where like you can see both sides of it. And the side of the brother is very kind of funny, torturing your little brother with Child's Play and Teddy Ruxpin. But then the flip side of it is, oh my God, you ruined 2 Christmases for this kid.
Yeah.
Oh my! I have no words.
My brother would do other stuff. Like he collected Halloween masks, like the full masks, and he would take like a ball, like a basketball, and put it in the mask, and then like put it on a string and put this like weird contraption up where like a broom was holding it up, and I would open my door, and this face, like this vampire face, would come and like smack me and stuff like that.
I'm afraid of your brother.
It's like Sid from Toy Story, but just like way more wicked.
Yeah.
Way more like emotionally like manipulative, not just like, making evil toys.
Sid actually wasn't like a bad kid. He didn't know his toys were alive. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
but yeah, this is terrible. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've had therapy. I'm good.
How do you even follow that up?
I don't know, Alicia. Why don't you share?
Wow. I don't even know how to follow that up.
Very carefully.
Yeah. Much less trauma-inducing. I think, like, there's part of me, looking at 80s properties. Transformers has gotten games, but I always love seeing a good Transformers game. Something more in the vein of, like, the War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron. We're just going to pretend that Rise of the Darkspark didn't happen. Or even if we got, like, another G1 game like Devastation. That was a very short game, very simple game. I would like to see something longer with that. But I was also thinking, I was like, Transformers has gotten a lot of love over the years, honestly. You know what ones haven't gotten a lot of love? Silverhawks and Thundercats.
Yeah.
I would love to see games for either of those two.
I feel like there was a Thundercats game that came out for like the Commodore 64, but that doesn't count at this point. There were a lot of games that came out for the Commodore 64 that really don't count.
Could get like Tom Hooper to make a Thundercats movie.
No. No.
With Chris Pratt playing Lionel. Sorry, that just wouldn't come out of my mouth, unfortunately.
Like
I think those were cursed words.
your brain said no, OJ, no.
Yes.
Bad OJ.
No, Chris Pratt has to be Snarf.
Don't do that to Snarf.
Yeah.
No, that has to be Vin Diesel. He only gets to play roles where he has one word.
Oh, man.
Jason Momoa's Lionel. Actually, I wasn't
I wouldn't be
joking.
opposed to that.
That was a serious suggestion.
Ryan, how about you?
Okay, so I have a couple answers. My main one I think is actually anime movie I absolutely love by one of my favorite directors is Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. It was made. I went ahead and looked it up. It was made in 1984. So yep, you know what? There you go. A game set in a movie by Studio Ghibli. I think would be awesome. And I think that if you could do that as a really cool like open world game, like seeing a Studio Ghibli style post-apocalyptic wasteland type game. With like all the same themes that go on that, and you could also draw from the comic series because there's a comic series that I still need to read. That movie was that was made before that movie. Fun fact: he originally wanted to make the movie first, but like it's not based on a manga. It has to be based on a manga. So then he made the manga so he could make the movie. But yeah, I think that would be a cool video game to make. My second answer was just kind of I think this has already been they've technically made a couple of games based off this, including a mobile game, but. Blade Runner. I know we already have Cyberpunk game, but maybe make a Blade Runner game that leans more into the punk side of things would be really cool.
There's a adventure game for the PC that came out in the late 90s, I think, because it was CD, a Blade Runner that I've never played. I feel like some people really like that game.
Check it out.
But yeah, I mean, certainly that that's been at this point like 20 plus years. So it can certainly get a new game and needs one. All right. So I had two answers as well. The first one is Pee-wee's Playhouse. And so I feel like you have such a fun collection of characters there that you could, do something with and everything. So I feel like that would be a whole lot of fun.
An Animal Crossing like game you could maybe do that with.
That's true. That might make a really good Animal Crossing style game. And I want a game, but it needs to have speech recognition so that if you ever say the word of the day, like the game just screaming at you, it just it's sort of like Eternal Darkness. So it has like sanity effects. So it just cranks up the volume at full and starts screaming at you.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe it needs to be a phone game so it can do that. And if it just listens to you throughout the day, and throughout the day, if you say the secret word, that's it. In the morning, you get an alert on your phone, and it says the secret word of the day is potato. And if throughout the entire day you say potato, your phone's listening to you, and your phone just goes off and just starts going, ah, and flashing and everything. That would be fantastic. And, then you'd have all these people breaking and smashing phones. And so maybe Apple should make that for Apple Arcade. People buy new phones.
I would find what the word of the day was every day and just say it as much as I could around everybody in meetings. And
or say it so that ask them questions, right? Like, hey, Ryan, French fries, they make those from radishes, right? And Ryan would be like, no, you dummy. They make them from potatoes.
Potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
What is a hobbit's favorite food? Yeah, ask Alicia what's a hobbit's favorite food. She'll say it.
Potatoes.
The other one, and again, I think they may have made a game for this for the Nintendo 60, or not Nintendo 64, Commodore 64. But it's The Never-Ending Story. And that's such a great little fantasy film for kids. It's
with trauma.
What? Yeah, but it's like baby's first fantasy film, and
trauma.
And like all good 80s movies, it has a lot of trauma attached to it. I don't think there's a 80s movie that didn't emotionally scar every kid who watched it. Every movie that kids are like, oh, I love that movie when I was a kid. And you're like, right, but which part of it made you cry? Oh, this part. So, yeah, I feel like that would be a fun one. That would be more, kind of mainstream adventure game, sort of a Zelda-style game. I could see that working as. But, yeah, those are my answers. OJ, we are terribly sorry. We will not make Chucky jokes anymore around you or anything, or talk about how Child's Play is a very, simple and not scary horror film.
Well, it's fine because, funnily enough, you were talking about Never-Ending Story. I'm actually watching it for the first time. I had to pause it just before I came here, but it seems really nice. But they just got to a swamp, and then I had to pause it to come for this podcast. I'm going to go home and finish it. So hopefully that trauma will just be washed away.
So
I love that horse. He just found the perfect horse.
Yeah, he did, buddy.
What a great horse. That
Gonna
will
go to a real
absolutely-
nice farm, too.
Will absolutely not traumatize anyone.
Yeah.
So this will be OJ's last episode. None of us are ever going to talk to him again. and that seems like for the best.
Is it that none of us will ever talk to him, or will he never talk to any of us? He'll just beat Ryan up in the parking lot silently.
We're just going to try to avoid him. He'll still beat up Ryan weekly, but other than that, I think we'll.
He'll come up to me like, hey, not to beat a dead horse, but.
Okay, that one was good.
That was well done.
Got to say the same joke twice on this podcast, and it worked.
All right. Well, that does it for this week. Thank you, as always, Alicia, Ryan, and OJ. Thank you for everyone who tuned in and listened, and hopefully got a few laughs and maybe some tears out of this episode. And as always, if you have questions, comments, you can give those to us through salukigames.com, or you can email me directly at justin.young@siu.edu. We will be back next week with another episode, and we will try not to be so depressing next week.
We'll start off talking about how that never-ending story seemed when...
And it'll be wonderful, Ryan. It ends wonderfully.
Absolutely.
That's all anyone needs to know. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.